So we're joined from the beautiful city of Merida, Mexico, right there on the Yucatan Peninsula, by my friend, Crystle Johnson, liberation coach, host of We Ain't Dying for This, founder of Kinory, lifelong DEI expert, and longtime member of the corporate world, and also entrepreneur, speaker, you name it. I would put her resume up against anyone. We thank you so much for taking some time for us today. This is our personal finance class, and you're our final guest of the semester. And I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools. My good friend, Coach Robin Mercer, over at Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us from the beautiful city of Merida, Mexico today.
Thank you so much, Greg. You are so kind, and I'm happy to be here.
Now, we obviously want to talk about the podcast. We want to talk about your moving abroad. We want to talk about all the things that you're doing in your business and how you got to that point. But just give us a little background because with me and you talking, you have a similar background to a lot of the kids that are here with me right now.
Yeah, I do. And I was really excited to speak with the class because of that. So I am adopted. I don't know if there's anyone in the class who's
Wow.
adopted. I was adopted informally at 2 weeks old. So I've always known who my parents are, but I lived with a different family who was able to better take care of me. But I'm from a very small town, one flashing stoplight, one grocery store. It now has a Dollar General, two gas stations. So it's a very small place. And so a lot of my life, I would say, has been trial and error. Like what I was told growing up was that I needed to get good grades, go to college, get a job, you'll be fine. So, of course, I followed that path, but it was a lot of trial and error because I didn't have anyone to tell me which direction to go in. So I've done a lot of this and a lot of that. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. And then I also have an MBA in HR management from Strayer University. It took me a while to get into the HR space because I didn't have any HR experience. I did one short internship while I was already working when I was working on my MBA, but that was not helpful when it came to finding a job in HR. And so I had to do a lot of pivoting, doing different things to kind of get the experience that I needed to get into the space that I have been in for the last decade. So I've worked in the DEI space. So after getting my MBA in HR management, I started the organization I was in, their first LGBTQ employee resource group. I worked very closely with legal, with HR, with marketing, with sales to create some value and impact. And because of that, and being able to articulate the things that I did at that organization, I was then able to land my first DEI role at a company called Bosch, which you all may have heard of. They make refrigerators, windshield wipers, a lot of different things. So I moved to Michigan for that role. I was there for a couple of years. I've also lived in Denver, Colorado. I've lived in so many places. I've lived in Oakland, California. I lived in Austin, Texas. So I've worked for Electronic Arts, Pandora Music, Nike most recently, and now I live in Merida, Mexico.
Yeah, and you're so humble because you left out a lot of the things that you've done. Also, an entrepreneur, podcast host, and we'll definitely get to all that. But one thing I did want to talk about is because Old Dominion is a great university,
Yeah.
very large university. There in Norfolk, and we have a lot of large universities here in Mississippi. And coming from a small town, it can be a big adjustment to go
Mm.
to a large university where there's several thousand people. And look, I tell this story all the time, and people don't think it's true, but I actually have the video to prove it. I went to University of Southern Mississippi, about 17,000 students, and I was in a class that had around 300 people in it. And there was literally a guy in that class I had known my entire life. I didn't know he was in there until the last day. It is that easy to get lost in the shuffle.
You will definitely get lost in the shuffle for sure. Old Dominion was very scary to me when I walked on campus because my high school graduating class was, I think, like 72 people, and I was number 7 in the class when you think about ranking in terms of grades. So going from such a small class to such a place that was so massive was really scary initially. However, it was great that I had a few people who went to my high school that were at Old Dominion University. And ultimately, people are kind. I know that we fear that there are people who will be buttholes, but most people are not.
Yeah, and also I always hit on the fact that, and I'm all about kids having options because college is not the path for everyone. But for the class I have right here, I think that's the path that most of them are probably going to take. So if no matter what university you choose, whether it's HBCU, PWI, big or small, the GPA aspect is important, but the networking aspect is even more important. So getting involved in student organizations. I know you did a study abroad in Africa, which makes me so jealous. We've had a couple of alums that have done the study abroads in Europe, in Asia, California, and all they've talked about is what they got out of that as far as learning their field, building their network, and getting their name out there. Because, I'm just as guilty as anyone. At the end of the day, nobody is coming to find you. You have to put yourself out there. You could have the highest GPA on the planet, but if you can't build your network and people know who you are, it's really for nothing.
For sure. And organizations want to see that you're well-rounded. Like it is good to have a great GPA, but they want to know that you can collaborate, that you can work well with others, that you can think critically. Because a lot of times in college, you're learning concepts. And you are critically thinking when you have projects and capstones and things like that. However, like there is a different level of putting it into practice when you're in the real world. And if you are in different organizations or if you're doing different things outside of class, it gives you the opportunity to develop critical thinking skills that will be helpful in the corporate space.
Big time. Now, you use that to move into the corporate space. You just named some of the places you work, some of the largest corporations in the world with Pandora, Electronic Arts Games, and most recently Nike, and working in DEI. And look, and I don't get on political opinions on this platform, but I think a few facts are in there that are not a matter of opinion. Is that, I think DEI is very misunderstood. And as somebody that being a white male, I hear a lot of kind of saying, well, it needs to be mirrored, it needs to be mirrored. Okay. But here's the issue, and here's where I know you and me agree on this. The problem is when a black woman or a Latino woman or whatever works their way, does everything the right way, and is the most qualified person for the job, they get the job. Immediately, the company gets accused of, oh, they only hired them because of XYZ. Well, I'm like, well, how's it supposed to be fair? If you're going to have these perceptions of people, can you really say it's about merit? So it's so important to understand that's why some of these things were put into place because, and again, not a matter of opinion, this is a fact. Black women are the most educated portion of the United States right now, and it's actually not close. It really is amazing what black females have been able to do in the last 15, 20 years. And I know you've been a big spearhead of that. But also, at the end of the day, I think it's important to know that people like yourself have worked so hard to make sure black women and women of all races get a seat at the table. But when it comes down to it, they've got to be the one that makes the person say, hey, that's the one I need. So as somebody that's been in HR that was in HR for years, you may have seen people that may have been a great student, they had a great network, but they did something that cost themselves a job before they even got in the door. So you've seen people make mistakes in interviews, you've seen resume mistakes. So talk about some of the things that are kind of small that can make somebody stand out.
Oh, if you're talking about the interview process, for example, I would definitely say asking questions, which is
Oh
all
man,
of the practice.
man, I cannot tell you. I say that all the time. Thank you for somebody else saying that.
Y'all are getting practice right now through this session and through all these sessions that you've done. Definitely always ask questions. Even if you feel like all the questions got answered, ask something. And usually my go-to question is, I ask the question, why did they come to X company and why did they stay? And
There
that
you
gives
go.
them an opportunity to talk about themselves because people love to talk about themselves. The second thing that I would say is, Greg, you mentioned this before, we were just talking about this, is having other things going on outside of work, outside of school, that you can actually share about in your interview process. I know that a lot of people, especially in the beginning, it's different when you're first getting into an organization. A lot of people say, don't get personal in the interview, don't share personal details but sharing personal details has actually gotten me jobs
Wow.
because I was married previously, and I would be like, yeah, so I'm married and we have two dogs, and these are the things that we love to do. And people eat that stuff up because
Yeah.
people love animals, they love love, they love like all the things positive. And so if you have like a positive story, don't harp on it forever, but touch on it lightly. It's something that organizations really love or interviewers really love. And then also tying back some of your experience that you have to what the organization may be needing. And the way you find that information out is doing as much research as you can online about said company, whether you're looking at their LinkedIn profile.
Oh man, yes.
Yes, whether you're going to their investor relations part of their website to understand like what's been going on with their earnings, what are the goals that they have for the organization in the next year. If there are people that are online posting about the different benefits from the company or maybe some program or event that they've had recently, you might be able to bring that up in the conversation because they want to connect. So if there's some way that you can connect with the person that you're talking to, it's going to be really, really helpful for you.
And I'll tell you something else. These companies are going to find your social media. You can think it's private. I had a situation a couple years ago. I wasn't even trying to find this kid. I was looking through something else, and I
Yeah.
see something he's posted, and it's got a bunch of cussing on it. I'm like, dude, you're trying to apply for scholarships. Take this down. I wasn't even trying to find you. But if you're posting the guns and the money, or if everything you post is political, no matter what side it's on, you don't want to come in looking like a controversial figure. You want to look like somebody that can work with everybody, and companies want to see that. And I've had hiring managers from a lot of places around here, and they say, "Look, we're going to check you, and we're going to find you."
Totally. And the other thing that I would say, thank you for saying that, it also made me think about the relationships that you build along the way. A lot of organizations will ask you for references as well. I've actually recently had quite a few conversations with people who've worked on my teams in the past who said, Crystal, can you give me a referral? And because that person did so well on my team, we built a strong relationship and a strong rapport. Then I was able to share, with their new role, this is my experience with this person and this is what I think they would be able to contribute with your team. And a lot of them have landed those roles based on those reference calls.
Yeah, and it's so important to have that available because again, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Now, obviously, after spending years in the corporate space, you did start your own business, Kinory, which is very interesting. It's something that I think was needed, but it's something that at the end of the day, you got to take initiative and reach out and do it. So, talk about how that business was born and why it's so important because it is such a cool concept.
Yeah, so Kinory is the
Oh, I'm
combination of,
sorry, I mispronounced it, Kinory.
I never said it online, so so it's kind of well, you wouldn't know. But Kinory is the combination of three words. It's kindred, memory, and story. Kindred souls remembering who we are and creating new stories together. And the reason I created Kinory is because I have hosted retreats in the past that are annual. I have hosted events that end up being maybe quarterly, maybe every other quarter. And what always reigns true in those events or those connections is that the Black women that are there, they're exclusively for Black women. And so, what always reigns true is that every Black woman who is there, they feel seen, they feel welcome, they feel held, they feel supported, which is not something that they feel in other everyday spaces. So, I felt like I was doing good work, but the work I was doing was not sustained because it was just happening, one off every once in a while. And so, when I left the workforce earlier this year in June, I decided that I wanted to create Kinory, which actually started off as Black Girls Meet. But y'all are probably too young to know this, but there is a website or a platform called Black People Meet, and it is a dating website. So a lot of people that I talked to were like, "Oh, it's a dating website," and I was like, "No, it's not a dating." When it comes to the trademarking process,
Yeah.
Black Girls Meet and Black People Meet could be confused with one another. So I needed to change the name and think of something very thoughtful and intentional for Kinory. So Kinory is a social dining community that is exclusively for Black women. It prioritizes sisterhood and belonging. So we had our first dinner in Houston during Afrotech with 14 women there. It was
Wow.
incredibly amazing. People just felt it was in a private room as well, which I think adds to the whole mission of it as well, because people are able to show up as they are. We don't lead with things like what's your job, what are your accomplishments, but we focus on who are you, who does your family know you as, who do the people that love you know you as, and talk more about how they might be able to prioritize themselves. So it is not a networking platform. It's more of a platform that gives you an opportunity to get to know who you are, remember who you are, together alongside other Black women who are experiencing some of the same things you are.
Wow. And then also, and we'll give everybody the link to it later. You're also the host of your own podcast, called "We Ain't Dying for This," and
Much
we've got to watch a.
Greg.
No, what's that?
I said I'm doing so many things.
Oh, hey, that's fine. I mean, it's we still got some great questions to get to as well. But you know, you're the host of We Ain't Dying for This, and we've taken the time in class to watch a little bit of it. But just talk about how that was born, and what people can get out of it. Because look, I'm a white male, and I even got some things out of it. So you know, even though you gear toward Black women, it really is something that people, you know, can use to think about. You know, because even though every you know, Black woman plights and battles are exclusive to them, a lot of the issues you talk about could apply to anyone.
Yeah.
So just talk about how that was born and how you kind of bring people in to talk about these things that need to be talked about.
Yeah, so We Ain't Dying for This was actually born because I saw Black women literally and figuratively dying under the weight of the world. Things that we have taken on that aren't ours to keep, expectations that people have made of us to show up for everybody and put ourselves last. And I wanted to give Black women the opportunity who are living life on their own terms to be able to talk to other Black women who are struggling or navigating getting to that space. So every episode kind of focuses on like, how is this particular person that I'm talking to experiencing liberation in this moment? What are some of the lessons that they've learned along the way? And if they had to give you homework, if you want to learn more about self-care, if you want to learn more about knowing, like listening to your inner knowing, what's some of the homework that they would give you if you are trying to navigate that space. So it's been a journey for sure. We wrapped season 2 this year, and then we'll be launching season 3 in February of 2026.
I can't wait. And you know, it's like and I've said this with several guests on the same platform that, you know, finding people like yourself and some of the people you have on there that already have a social media presence. And look, and I know at 16, 17 years old, you just want to watch the funny TikToks and see the celebrities. And look, I'm a big sports fan. I like seeing what the athletes are doing. But I always try to tell these kids, find people that are going to put positive things in your life. Find people that are going to build you up. Find people that have had similar backgrounds that can show you that you're not alone, that can show you that there is a way out of this, that where you are isn't where you end. And it's just so important for everybody, especially our young Black women, to see that there is other Black women that have been so successful and been able to do some incredible things that may have even started out with less than they have now.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes.
Now, I think it's so cool because we mentioned you are now in Mexico. You decided a few months ago, less than a year ago, to finally move out of the United States, which you said is something you kind of always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people, I hear kids all the time say, "Well, I want to move to XYZ and I want to do this." So I say, "Well, do you have a plan?" Because it's not just flip a switch. And I've had several friends and we've had several alums. They'll move to the big city, think all their problems are going to go away. And I know me and you talked briefly yesterday, and I talked about, there's an old song my parents used to listen to, and the line that always got to me was, "Sometimes I have a crazy dream that I just take off in my car, but you can travel on for 10,000 miles and stay right where you are."
Mhm.
And you moved several thousand miles away to another country where English isn't even the main language, but you've created a life for yourself, and you've had a kind of a self-realization of, this is the way things need to be, and discovered so much about yourself, and been able to still have your business and still work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that song that you said. I have no idea what the title is, but when you
I'll send
said,
it to you. It's called WOLD by Harry Chapin.
okay, so yeah, I was just like, wow, that is so true because we often feel like if we just left the county that we live in, we left the state, if we left the job, if we left home because maybe our parents are toxic or our family is toxic, if we leave the country, then all of a sudden everything is going to be different. But ultimately, it's important that you take responsibility for the role that you're playing
There you
in
go.
is happening in your life right now because we can't control everyone else, but we can control ourselves. And I think that if we're in a situation that is difficult or toxic or like a situation we're trying to escape from, we're doing ourselves a disservice if we think that that situation has not impacted us at all, that somehow we are like protected in this little box and all you got to do is move us out of the situation and then we'll just be perfect and we're going to flourish. Not true. Maybe mostly true, but there's still some things that you're going to have to address with yourself because being in those types of environments can be traumatic and you carry your trauma and your trauma responses with you. And if you don't address those things, then it's still going to happen in a new place. It's just going to be a new place, but same situations. You're going to run into the same kind of people because you're going to be attracting those same types of people towards you because you haven't looked within, you haven't looked in the mirror and said, okay, Crystle, what is it that I need to do differently to live the life that I want to live? And then,
There you
second,
go.
I would say, which kind of connects to this about the plan, you got to have a plan. Please plan. Please do not. Y'all are on TikTok, I'm sure. So you definitely have seen videos of people who have left the United States with $200. Don't do that. Don't do it.
Yeah, and then also, and I know they get sick of me saying this, but it just drives me crazy. I'm a big fan of Jasmine Sullivan. But she
Mhm.
has that song where she goes, "I'm going to move to Atlanta, open a business, and be rich." And I'm like, stop acting like it's a magic trick.
Mhm.
I know, and I know she's trying to sell records, and she's a great artist, but it doesn't exactly work like that. It takes plan, it takes work, and look, at the end of the day, you're never going to have me disagree with you. It is harder for a black woman than anybody else, and you really have to put in the work, and you got to take initiative, you got to be tenacious, and that goes for everybody, but especially black women, because like we said, nobody's going to come find you. You've got to be the one to step out there. And before I get to their questions, I want to say that I was quoted in a magazine as saying rural communities were left behind for decades,
Mhm.
especially rural black communities. There's no doubting it. The facts are there. The numbers are there. It's obvious. But a lot of things have changed. We have platforms like this, and this is why I think it's so important because just because your grandparents didn't have access, just because your parents didn't have access, not a single person that's in this room with me right now or sees this later can say they chose where they were born. They chose who their parents were. They chose the color of their skin. But there's so much they can do to change a narrative, to change a stereotype. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't do it. I say this often, you can be the first at something, but you can be the best at something. And there's never been a better time. And I always said, find people like yourself that you can listen to and draw inspiration from because it's never been a better time to really do something with your life. Because, me and you are about the same age. When I was 16, 17, I didn't have people talking to me about these things. I didn't realize all the options I would have had. There's a lot of things I would have done differently if I'd have known what all was possible for me. So I can only imagine you being a black female in a small town. You didn't know all the things that were possible for you. So that's why I just urge all these kids to really know there are so many different ways you can go, not the way society or your parents want you to.
100%. One of the things that I've learned over the last year is that a lot of the things that I liked, a lot of the things that I pursued, a lot of the expectations that I set for myself were based on what the world told me to be, not or to like or to enjoy, not based on what I wanted. So I definitely think that that's important too, to take a step back and understand who are you? What is it that you love? What is it that you want? Not what mama wants, not what daddy wants, not what grandma wants, not what the family or what your principal would want, not what Greg wants, but what is it that you want? What's going to make you happy? And how do you show up in a way that allows you to
Absolutely. Well, I do have some questions here, and these are all excellent. I'm glad they're thinking deep with these. So, this first one is Jasmine McBride. She's in 10th grade, member of our award-winning choir here, wants to go to Georgia State University in Atlanta and be a psychotherapist. And she asked, who or what has been the biggest inspiration to be where you are today?
Hey, Jasmine, nice to meet you. I would say my biggest inspiration has probably been my adoptive father. So my adoptive father is actually illiterate, and he worked his whole life to take care of us as a family. I shared that I was adopted, but there's actually like seven of us total. Four of them are his children, and then there are two people who are adopted. Me and like my oldest brother is also adopted. So he and my mother worked very hard, and my mother is part of this too. But I'll share a little bit more about that after I get through my father. But the fact that he was able to learn enough to pass a CDL test to
Wow.
then be able to better take care of his family. He worked at the same place for 50 years. I am queer, and my father has always been accepting of me from day one. He has always said, whatever makes you happy makes me happy, as long as whoever you're with it treats you well. And so I feel like he has always instilled in me to be kind, to go after the things that I want, to stay grounded. And so I definitely credit that to him. My mother also worked equally as hard. However, one of the things that I learned from her was to put everyone else first and put myself last. And I truly believe that my mother worked herself to death. And what she taught me from that is to not put everyone first, to take care of me and to give from my overflow.
Wow, that's deep. I like this one. This is Zakiria Chambers. She's in 10th grade. Wants to get into real estate. Also getting some IT certifications in high school, so would be able to do that as soon as she graduates. But she asked, "What's one mistake that you made early on that taught you the most valuable lesson?"
Hey, Zakiria. I would say one of the mistakes that I made was worrying about other people. Before I was able to get into the DEI space, I was working for an organization doing long-term care claims. And I was in a team lead capacity, but I had applied for a lot of jobs in HR and doing other things. And I saw other people around me that I felt at the time were not deserving of growing and getting into new roles, and they were growing and getting into new roles, and I wasn't moving anywhere. And I'm like, I'm working hard, I'm doing all the things. What is happening? Why am I not growing? And when I was able to stop caring about whatever it is that they had going on and worried about myself, then I was able to think more clearly about what were the ways that I could get where I was going. I couldn't keep saying, well, I can't get experience if you won't give me an opportunity to get experience. But what other ways can I show up to provide value, to then articulate that value to get to the place that I want to be?
Big time. I like this one. This is our one young man with us. This is Elijah Dawson. He's in 10th grade. And he asked, do you ever get homesick being away from home? And were you nervous to move out of the country? Oh,
Ooh,
and he also asked, was it weird getting used to the food there?
ooh, okay. Hi, Elijah. So I would say that because I have lived in all the other places in the US, I wasn't as nervous. I also wasn't as nervous because I did research and I planned and I talked to people and I joined communities of Black folks that are already here in the Merida area. There are a lot of Black people in Merida,
Yeah.
Black Americans in Merida who have immigrated here. And so it felt like a soft landing space for me. So it hasn't been terrible getting accustomed to it. Now, things are a lot different, like things move a lot slower, which is actually a lesson for me because I feel like in America, everything is a rush. Like everything is a hustle. Everything needs to be done right now, yesterday. And so here it gives you the opportunity to slow down. So I think in the beginning, it felt like a con, but now it actually feels like a pro that I'm able to wake up in the morning, make coffee, make myself breakfast, like slowly ease into the day rather than waking up and like running as soon as I wake up. In terms of food, the food is great. It's definitely clean. Like the food is very clean.
And it ain't
And
Taco Bell, it's real Mexican food.
yeah, it's real Mexican food. Actually, I had some leftover cochinitas this morning. It's actually like a tostada and it has pork and red onions and guacamole and lettuce on it. Really good. So if you ever visit Mexico or Merida specifically, that is actually one of the dishes that they really love here as a delicacy.
Yeah, and then another thing about Merida, a lot of American companies are moving people there to work in their solar energy and wind energy. One of the top places in the world for people working in energy jobs. A lot of high tech jobs there right now that are run through American companies. So great place to live, and it's a great standard of living as well. So I got the chance to visit there a couple summers ago, and it really is a really cool place, near a whole lot of stuff to do as well. So definitely one of the better places in Mexico to live. I got two more. This is Zyra. She's in 11th grade, member of our band, member of our student council, wants to go to Mississippi State University and be a licensed professional mental health counselor. And she asked, was the biggest motivation for you to get into the HR space?
Mm. Hi, Zaire. The biggest motivation you're probably you probably this will be interesting because it doesn't have anything to do with helping people. Initially, it didn't have anything to do with that. So my first job out of college was as an assistant store manager at Walmart. And I had a market manager, a market HR manager who would come in and she had an open door policy. She was always really kind, like I really thought she was cool. And I was like, ooh, like she has an MBA in HR management. So I should get an MBA in HR management. So it actually speaks to like what I said before, like it was a lot of trial and error because I didn't have anyone to ask, like, what should I be doing or which direction should I be going in? Obviously, after getting into the space, learning more about HR, it I started to connect more with how it is that I could support people within organizations to make sure that they had a great experience, that they felt like they belonged, that they could do their best work and be their best selves. But initially, it was about the experience that I had with this woman. And I was like, oh, I should have the same job that she does. And that's how it happened.
That's awesome. Well, I like this one. This is Kalia Bullock. She's in 10th grade. One of our basketball players here wants to play college basketball. And she's still trying to figure some things out, but she's extremely intelligent. I know she'll make the right decision. But she asked, once I decide what I'm going to do, what would be the first steps you would recommend to get started in the correct career?
Oh, Kalia. Do you mean when you're picking a major or you mean like after you've gone through school?
Picking a major.
Picking a major. Ooh, I would say if you're already in college, so colleges give you the opportunity to not declare a major. So I think one of the biggest things or most important things that you could do is go to your student services center to understand more about career paths. What is it that you want to do? And they would be able to support you in identifying based on the things that you love, based on what it is that you want to do, this is what we would recommend. And they would probably also be able to connect you with students as well who have a similar approach or a similar path that they're following. The other thing that I would say is that if you go on LinkedIn and there are different careers or like majors that you think you might be interested in and filter, you might be able to find some people that are near you, like in your state, outside your state, could be a Black woman. And I, for one, if a Black woman reaches out to me, I'm gonna respond. And I would
Yeah.
hope that a lot of other Black women do that as well. So if you find someone online, reach out to them, ask them questions about their college experience, their major, how it is that they decided on it, like how is their career, dot, dot, dot. And that may be helpful with deciding too.
Awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, the Crystle Johnson on Instagram is where you are. Great follow, really cool content. Crystle Johnson on YouTube. Your podcast is on there. All of the episodes, really easy listen. And look, not only are you going to get great content, you're going to get other great women that you can follow. A lot of successful people that already have social media presence. Because I find a lot of people through somebody else's platform. Look, these people want to be found, so you might as well. So I encourage everybody to go listen to that. And it really is a lot of good stuff. But the last thing before we go, and it's just I'm always in awe of all the things that you talk about, all the positive things that you put forth. Even though you've experienced some horrible obstacles, just like anybody, you always turn it into a positive, and it's really amazing to see. So as these kids, especially these young black women, start matriculating through high school, start making decisions that's going to affect the rest of their life, no matter what they do, because I'm going to support them whatever they decide to do. My job is to give them the best options. So as they start making those decisions, how can they be prepared to face those obstacles that they are going to face, not only as young people but as black women, when they start as they start making those decisions for their careers and their lives?
One of the things that I wish I knew before going into corporate or going to college is that I was enough already. And I think that a lot of us, we feel like we have to prove our worthiness. We have to show people how smart we are. We have to overperform and over deliver in order for people to believe in us. Ultimately, if there's someone who doesn't believe in you or they have these perceptions and they don't even know you, don't beg them to see your humanity. You have to be grounded in knowing that I am enough, that I am smart, I'm intelligent, I'm brilliant, that I am able to do whatever it is that I want to do, whatever it is that I want, I can make it real. And no matter what happens, if you have that sort of mindset and you're grounded in that, you will be fine. You will be
I love
fine.
it. Love it. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us, and we thank you for adjusting for our time as well. But we'd love to have you back in the spring to talk to our seniors. I think you'd be able to offer them some great things as we do that, and we'll definitely be in touch on that. But I encourage everybody to go follow her. Go watch We Ain't Dying for This. My friend Crystle Johnson, all the way from the beautiful city of Merida, Mexico. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you, Greg.
I talk to you soon, my friend.
Bye.